Blessed to be with you. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Dave Petzo's with us. Dave, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you with us here. A lot going on. Do want to remind everybody the KIDO Talk Radio app is free. You can go to Google Play. You can go to the App Store. You can go to just about anywhere and get the KIDO Talk Radio app. You've got a phone. You got a lot of apps on your phone. Let's go inside with Dave Petzo. You got a lot of apps on your phone?
No, I have the basic ones. I find myself they shut themselves down now. You know what I mean? Because you don't use them. So no, I'm not much of an app guy. I just use it for basically get my news, weather, that kind of stuff, and email. But no, not much.
Well, and you see, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to earn that valuable real estate because I believe. I mean, look, nobody's entitled to be on my phone.
That's right.
Hey, download it. I don't want to download this.
Right.
So we're trying to go to those people that are very particular about what they want on their phones.
Well, and I think it is. It's also a privacy issue. It's a spam issue. It's all those other things. We all get spams all the time, and it's frustrating. And the more things you sign up for, the more your name gets circulated around. And they decide what kind of person you are and what kind of ads to deliver to you based on what the artificial intelligence says about your app choices.
Now, speaking of which, you a baseball guy at all?
Boy, I used to be, Kevin. I think actually this goes way back, right?
Sure.
I mean, way back. But when the strike hit,
right?
What was it? Early 80s, wasn't it?
Early 80s, late 80s, early 90s, something like that. It was I remember when baseball recovered because it was Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire. Of course, both of them had other issues after that. However, baseball. So the strike kind of ended it for you.
It ended my love for the game, if you will, and also then life rolls on, right? You have little kids, you just don't hunker down in front of the TV as much. But anyway, that was kind of the beginning of the end of my love for baseball.
So baseball, though, you've had human umpires forever.
Yes,
and I know you're a big AI guy.
Yeah,
especially when it comes to the markets, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, you're big.
I love those machines, yeah.
Sure. Well, now they're going to have, it looks like they're trying this out, but Bright Lights Big City, you could eventually have a robot umpire.
I know. And that would be part of the whole, I don't know. Part of the ambiance is, frankly, that it is close. The pitch is close, and you're not sure. Or maybe the umpire calls them low or has a lower strike zone than somebody else. People know it. That's part of the science of the game, if you will. They scout the umpires as well. As long as the game is fair, then it really doesn't matter if the strike zone is a couple inches up or down, umpire to umpire. I'm fighting this one a little bit.
Well, people go crazy about this. And you have managers screaming at officials because it's subjective.
Yeah.
But it's been subjective for years.
It has. And, I think back of all the great playoff games and all of history and all the series and all those things, and I just don't remember any of them being on an umpire calling a strike that wasn't a strike or what have you. It just – I'm not sure that it's not like watching – the playoff game last year in football where,
the Rams versus the Saints. Yeah.
This was inconceivable because it just was one of those things where you look at and you go, that couldn't have happened because this is like $1 billion in an entire team, entire franchise, on something that's not even a missable call. And so I you know what I mean, it's just one of those things that really frustrates the game. But balls and strikes are kind of part of the game. I don't mind the replay at first base. Was he out? Was he safe? But the umpire, I'm bucking on that one yet.
The humans, we could all be replaced.
We all can be,
right?
Yeah, but are we going to be better? Is life experience going to be better being dealing with nothing but artificial intelligence? I doubt it.
Well, this is a great way to start the segment. We're all going to be replaced by computers, and whether it's Skynet with the Terminator or gosh knows what else, it is very troubling. Mayor Pete Buttigieg has said we're going to have to deal with these great disruptors. Dave Petzo joining us at the Petzo Center, Petzo Financial, right here on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning. It's fascinating, though. You have, I think his name's Andrew Yang. He's running for the presidency. Mm-hmm. Big Silicon guy, tech guy.
One of the only intelligent Democrats,
Right.
frankly.
So say you. I don't know if there is an intelligent Democrat, but here's a guy made a ton of money, son of immigrants, wants to pay people $1,000 because he says the jobs are going away because there's not going to be any work because the machines are going to be so efficient.
Yeah.
You're a dad, a grandfather. What do you make of that as someone who is on the cusp? You look at trends and stuff. You think that's a reality?
Yeah. Can I first of all, can I take back my intelligent comment, because I did not know he was pushing for just handing out money. That just sounds like he wants to be my daddy, and I don't think that's good for
you.
America.
Don't want him to be your daddy?
No, I do not want that, and I don't. And I think that's one of the most absurd things, Kevin, that I've ever heard. I think that is ridiculous, and I frankly, I'm just offended as heck that's the deal. So I'll try to calm down about that, but I can't believe that people are really serious about this, because all they're really screaming for is an administrative state, if you will, the superhuman, super smart people that all stand around like they do now in D.C. and tell us minions in flyover country how our lives should be. That's exactly what happens in Europe day after day after day after day, where you've got this class of people that just kind of quietly, it's nice, it's free, we get to vote for people, but you really don't have choices in life. Look at how few entrepreneurs that Europe has. They just don't. All of their laws just restrict that. They stop that from happening. And so you don't have creativity, you don't have art. When's the last great artist that came out of Germany? I don't know one. I don't know a great artist that comes out of France anymore, because they don't have freedom. It's not just money. It's also the freedom to think, to create, to innovate, to change the world that you live in, instead of having a bunch of people sitting around deciding how we ought to live. And that's what passing money out is.
Dave Petzo joining us, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. So let's talk about something inspirational. Last week, the Wall Street Journal headline Wall Street Journal on KIDO Talk Radio. In Boise and Grand Rapids, the housing market looks red hot. Many Midwestern markets have heated up so quickly they are now experiencing shortages of inventory and rising prices. It's shocking that, 7, 8 years ago, we were going on and on about home values being cut in half.
Yep.
And now the projected growth won't stop for many, many years.
Yep, and it's not. Obviously, we've talked about this endlessly, Kevin. We have a circumstance where our old Boise is gone, and it is gone, and it's different. And everywhere we drive, people are they don't even stop anymore. And I don't want to be that old curmudgeon guy that always talking about aggressive drivers. But the reality is, you feel it every day. You sense it every day. People are not as nice as they were, and that's what we're missing. But they're so much nicer here than they are on the coast, and life is so much easier, more space. You can get a better house, all that stuff for a lot less money. People are coming here, and we can't stop it. And I guess it's a first world problem, but it is a problem. It's a problem for infrastructure. It's a problem for property taxes are going through the roof, and it's a problem for affordable housing, and it's a problem for our lifestyle that we've enjoyed for the last, in my case, 35 years here in Boise. So it's a little different. It's a different ballgame, isn't it? I guess 40 years now.
Wow, time flies for you.
Yeah, 40 years. I was able to do the math real quick there.
Well, you are a numbers guy.
Yeah, sometimes.
But, and this is something, and again, if you're just tuning in on the KIDO Talk Radio app or 107.5 FM, 580 AM, this is something that we've covered, but they might not have missed it. They might have missed it. I mean, could we see, maybe not what happened with The Big Short, but could we see something where all of a sudden the housing market just goes crazy? Now, you know me.
Yeah.
I watch the shows. Like the president. I watch the shows.
Yes, you do.
Now, you and all these other people, you go to the Green Belt, you go hiking and all these things, but I watch the shows, and I can remember this show about New York real estate. Now, I loved it when pardon this expression, I know no one has ever heard it before, these punks, these young punks.
Yeah.
And not that I'm envious of anybody who's young. All right. However.
Or a punk.
Right. Well, exactly. So these guys, they were getting their butts kicked because the housing market collapsed in New York. Then all of a sudden they were wonderful. Housing's blowing up. Well, they overbuilt in New York City.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden they're, oh, no one will sell and no one will sell. And, we're seeing that there in New York, perhaps in Los Angeles. What about here? Could we go back to the days where builders and other contractors overextend because the good times are rolling, and we could be caught with a bunch of half-filled up neighborhoods?
We could, but I don't think that's going to happen, and I'll tell you why, Kevin. The last recession never looks like the one that you're in, because we don't make the same mistake that quickly, and we don't have the kind of leverage available in the system, and that's really what caused it, was how much leverage there is. Now, I will say, too, you quoted the Wall Street Journal earlier in the broadcast, and I just wanted to also say that they also, this past week, had talked about the fact that the overall mortgages are at record levels. So that is, again, you're going to hear a lot of this reflecting back to 2007.
Well, what does that mean? And quoting the headline here, and you're a step ahead of me because that was the follow-up, mortgage debt hits record eclipsing 2008 peak.
Yeah.
Isn't that a warning sign?
No. It isn't. It means we are, but we're seeing, we've seen housing prices go up so much. What the problem was before, as you well know, you've certainly read about it, you've reported on it, the housing crisis was caused by politicians putting their finger in bankers' faces and saying, by God, you will absolutely lend money to people that will not pay you back,
right, or
you will be out of business. And that's what the Congress of the United States, yes, Democrat run, and we all have famously Maxine Waters standing up and screeching about it. And she made sure that was exactly what happened. And so they did that. And then also, of course, we got into all this toxic pools of slicing and dicing, and then and stepping in, and S&P putting AAA ratings on them. All those things all do not occur today. And so when we don't have that kind of leverage, those kind of derivatives, I do not worry about the fact that the nominal amount of debt is as high as it was 12 years ago, because obviously we all have a lot more money than we did 12 years ago. And so it's not nearly the crisis on that level. More people have cash in their homes, and homes are more expensive. So we are seeing all of this together to say it's not going to be the same crisis, Kevin, if we start making sure that people have mortgages and they only have to put 2% down or 1 or none, then we're going to have that problem again. But we're nowhere near that unless, of course, here's a political statement, one of these nut jobs gets in that wants to have free housing, or everybody has a house.
We'll talk more about that with Dave Petzo next. You're listening to Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Waking up on the right side, Kevin Miller in the morning. Dave Petzo joining us from the Petzo Center. Money Matters this Saturday, 8 to 10. So you're worried that the economy, which has been bubbling up and down here, what was it? I wish I could remember, and I'll try and look it up while we're talking. A 1 in 3 chance of recession. Somebody has just put odds on that. But so if a crazy, wacky, zany, lovable for the sake of entertainment purposes, lib gets in, what does that mean to the economy? What happens then if, let's say, Bernie or Elizabeth, they all want massive social programs, and we can't even pay for what we have now?
Correct. I know. They want to expand everything. Everything's free. And again, they want to be our daddy, and this is the fundamental problem. They all are smarter than we are and know what we need, and so they'll just dole out money as they think we should have things, and how wonderful that is. But we don't operate as humans well in that environment, so the answer is the economy is going to tank. Innovation will stop. Expansion will stop. And it's something that does concern me. They're so nutty, Kevin. I'm not really worried at this point that Trump won't win. I know the mainstream media is all over it, but I just can't believe that even if the economy slows down, that people want this kind of stupidity. It's just not what works ever. Anywhere, not once. And so I can't believe that people want this. But at the same time, we'll adjust to that. If, in fact, we have a recession, if Trump goes down in the polls, the market will tank prior to the election. It won't just happen at post-election unless it's a shocking result.
Dave Petzo joining us, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. But let's go to the millennials. You know all about the millennials, right?
I know very little about millennials.
Well, they're the largest age cohort in American history, ages 23 to 38 now. Hard to believe there's a couple of generations behind them. But the millennials are down with the socialism, little agnostic when it comes to everything else. So we could see people buying. When you say it's not worked, but you have people saying, and I want to get rid of student debt and health care for everyone. And this is how they do it in Iceland.
Yeah.
People are buying it.
They are, because they were taught that in school. They were taught that this works by socialists, by academia that does not ever do anything except propagate, and it is talking their own book. They're smarter than everybody else, so they get to hang out at academia, teach the generation whatever it is they want to teach, and there really isn't any freedom of thought, and that's unfortunate. So the only freedom of thought is that our forefathers were horrible people, slave traders, and were not giving of their lives and their treasure to make this country great. That is not who they were at all. And so they've retaught history. They've talked about socialism in a way that is positive. And when you just simply grow up and learn that, how are you going to? It takes time to unlearn that. But now we have a system where the news is constantly feeding into that same narrative that socialism is great and Donald Trump is bad and freedom is bad and Wall Street is horrible and you have no chance of success in this world. And that, to me, is something that is just, that's very tough. I know that maybe I'm an optimist, Kevin, but I am an optimist. But this is the most abundant time we've ever been on Earth, in the most abundant country. And you would not know that if you asked the average person. They'd list 12 different problems because that's all they did was read the newspaper, and they picked up their cell phone and they had 12 different negative headlines. None of them are positive.
Our man Dave Petzo with his endorsement of the media. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Traffic and weather together. Good morning, Dave. Appreciate your insight, Larry Gebert. Dave Petzo joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So going back to what we're talking about when we're looking at the economy, last week we talked about the trade war. The president making an announcement that he's going to hold off on the big tariffs until Christmas or after Christmas because he wants people to buy cell phones and laptops. Good move, bad move, poor move. The market seemed to like it.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. It was brilliant, really. It puts all the pressure right now on China with the Hong Kong situation, and that is a huge concern, as we talked about. That's my big concern right now, is what's going to happen with Hong Kong. And it does not help necessarily the trade talk, but it's certainly, this whole thing strengthens Trump's hand. Xi Jinping is clearly a monster dictator who will not live up to this 50-year transition in Hong Kong. Is already broken every promise, just like they break every trade promise, every WTO promise. Everything they do is this. It shows what their true colors are, and that is, we shake hands with you, we nod, we bow, and then we go off and do whatever the heck we want to do. So we've got a very tough president. He looks very strong on this, and I think it just it really strengthens his hand. What's going on with Hong Kong? The world doesn't like this. It's 24/7 coverage all over the world. I just can't imagine the Chinese coming in like Tiananmen Square, and this hopefully will put them back in a box.
Who would stop them?
Oh, they can. But I think the world would imagine what would happen to their access to capital in the world is Hong Kong. Nobody trusts China through Beijing or what have you. They trust it through the free markets of Hong Kong. It's where they do all of their business. And so I can't imagine if they came rolling in there, the fifth largest stock market in the world would shut down. Or come to a screeching halt, and we would see all of those great businesses move out of there, and that would be access to capital, trade, all the things that the Chinese have grown with, and now they would not have that. So I think they're going to be very light-handed. That's just my opinion. I can't imagine why they would come rolling in there with tanks and squash the protesters. Let the police take care of it.
About a minute left in this segment with Dave Petzo here. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Does that really impact us if the Chinese smash the Hong Kongians? I mean, does it really impact us in Idaho?
Yes and no. It does because it impacts the markets, the global markets. It would be another economic slowdown for China. The stock market would certainly take a hit because, again, the fifth largest stock market in the world, and all of Asia trades through Hong Kong. It's a very big hub for finance. And so it is a very important place, and therefore I do think it would have an impact here, certainly in your 401k, as you like to say.
More coming up with Dave Pezzo. Remember, you can catch him every Saturday, 8 to 10. Money Matters right here on KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Of course, then you have the Dave Pezzo podcast. And remember, you can always check us out on the KIDO Talk Radio app, available at the App Store and Google Play. No third-party providers. You just go there and type us in, and there we are. And we hope to earn some well-valued real estate on your phone. We promise not to spam you endlessly. You have my word on it. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. Where does the time go? Dave Pezzo joining us here. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. You know, where do you get your love for radio?
Wow. It just grew on me. That's a really good question. It just grew on me. As you know, Kevin, I just fell into doing this. It was kind of on a dare that I started doing the first radio show, and I'd never had a microphone in front of me before. So needless to say, I was a bit unnerved. And it just was one of those things where I really fell in love with it. Back in the day when radio was, it was big. You had big staffs, and right. It was as you and I talk about. It was the heyday of radio. There was a lot of money in it. The businesses were swapping around all the time. Remember, I think there've been 5 owners of the station since I've been here, maybe more. And
could be a new one.
It could
be the Chinese.
Anytime. It could be the Chinese. Is right. It's been, when I fell in love with it, was really with John and Chris and the governor and all, and Dinah Jewell. Ray Amaya was around in those days, and
well, he still is.
I know. That's why I'm tossing out a name that's still here.
Right.
He's been here almost as long as I have, right?
Uh-huh.
And so, anyway, but it's one of those things where you have that, and you come in and you sit down, and how you cannot fall in love with it when it's, for me, created some of my best relationships that I have with people who have been on the radio with me and been around this area for 30 plus years. It's something that I just couldn't help but love to be able to, and then to build on that, Kevin, to be able to sit there and turn on the microphone and talk about what I want to talk about, but feel like you're reaching people, changing their opinion about something that's very, very important, and that is money. And to teach for a couple hours every week is a real honor to be able to do that, and it really is. So it's something that I've continued to really love doing, and maybe that's a long answer for you.
No, I can remember over 10 years ago when I came in, when they flew me in here, and I remember catching your show on Saturday. I go, man, this guy is good, and you're not doing this full time, but you have such a gift for it that you can just, I mean, whether people call in or not, you can keep the content going, the compelling conversation, whether you're taking calls or not. And there's a lost art, and we see it with great talk show hosts. Gentleman that used to be on here from 10 to 1. Okay. Mm-hmm. He doesn't need calls.
Right.
And it's very rare that you have people that can do that. Even rarer that you have people that can do it that haven't been trained and worked their ways up. In the old days, when I started over 25 years ago, if you got 2 calls in 2 hours, it was great. Actually, with this show 10 years ago, if I got 3 calls in 4 hours, it was a good day.
Yeah, right.
But I think
a call's like a vacation.
Well, it gives you a chance to reset in your voice, but that communication that we have. So here at KIDO Talk Radio, I'm wondering, everybody's talking about podcasting, right?
Yeah.
And podcasting is okay. And now it's funny. I was listening to one the other day, and it was only 16 minutes, and there were 2 commercials in front of it, and then a commercial at the end. It was like maybe 13 minutes of content, if that. And I'm going, wow. To me, all a podcast is radio or your show or whatever on demand. It's just a repackaged version of radio, like the TV stations, your beloved Channel 7 when they go,
right.
Hey, I've got a Facebook poll. What do you think? That's just talk radio.
Yeah, it is. It is a different form of it. And that's interesting because I would actually maybe another time we'll turn that around and ask you the same question, because it is a very fascinating thing about our love for radio and why. Because it is a different medium, and there's many millennials. We talked about millennials that they don't listen to radio at all, and really never have. My daughter's one of them. She was forced as a child to listen to me from time to time, but that was it. And after that, no more radio. So it is a dying art, if you will, and I'm sad about that, because having something live and you have to think by the seat of your pants and react to things and talk your way through and on and on and on is an art form, and you are a professional at that, Kevin. So I really I don't know. I don't want it to die. It's just too cool.
Well, it's I hopefully we'll keep our run here going, but it's fascinating how online communities really just mirror what radio was when this station was created by Boise High School students so many years ago.
Yeah.
And what it could be today. And you take a look at radio coming up November of 2020. We'll be celebrating the first commercial radio station's 100 years. And, without radio, there'd be no TV, there'd be no internet. So it's fascinating, the means to communicate and the means to get rolling. Now, one could say that perhaps Facebook has replaced radio as a means. And Facebook under fire, $5 billion settlement to the FTC. And last week, we even had it on our beloved website. Facebook was actually paying people, according to Bloomberg, to transcribe your messages.
Yes.
And I'm going, man, and people are worried about their cyber currency, the Libra or the Libra or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
What's the future of Facebook?
Yeah, I think that the future for all of these companies is going to be in Washington, D.C., and that is they're going to hire even more lobbyists just to try to keep, if you will, the rules in check in the United States. And what we're moving towards now is more of a European type of approach, which is Google gets fined $5 billion every year by the European Union. And it's not enough because they just don't stop. It's not enough. And so I think they're going to tighten up the rules. But anyway, for Facebook, it's probably Instagram. Google is YouTube. It's still going to continue to be evolving. And I don't know what the next iteration of Facebook is. But right now, you and I are on Facebook, but apparently the millennials aren't anymore. So
right,
that's a real different ballgame now.
Instagram, Snapchat. But what I often say, to echo our friend Sean Hannity, let your heart not be troubled, because you have people at the upper end that have the most education, the most disposable income, that don't get the respect they deserve from the quote-unquote ad agency people, but they're the decision makers, and they're going to be in power and deciding things for quite some time.
They are. It's not over. But
thank you, Dave, for letting me know it's not over.
It's not over, but we are. Our work has to be also to attract to radio is the younger people, because you have to do that. Whether you are running a golf course, you have to attract younger people.
Well, a lot of people wonder about that. Most of these folks are into games and everything else.
Yep.
And it's funny because, and I've been saving this one for you, Bloomberg did a story on Generation Z, or the plurals, the ones either immediately following the millennials or the ones after, that are tuning out of the social media. They're going back to the old ways.
Thank goodness.
The ways before, the empire.
I think
quote
it's good.
Star Wars.
Yes, I do. I like it. I feel like the poor millennials are caught with the Death Star out there. This big rush to technology where you and I didn't have that before. So technology is this beautiful tool to us.
Right.
But it's not our life. We're not on social media, and I get my whole meaning from how many likes I have. You know, I get no meaning from that. I think it's weird. And so
You mean you're not at the Petso Center when you put something on, you go, hey, I got a like, hey, everybody.
Exactly.
No, that's not you.
Ring the bell. I want to ring the bell.
Right.
And so it is one of those things where we grew up in a time where we can just love technology and fear it for what it's doing to our children and our grandchildren. But I agree with you, Kevin. I see this trend. I see it with my daughter and keeping my grandkids away from the screen, keeping them off of it, so that engaging, playing the way kids did, and not doing videos all the time. Let's go watch a movie tonight. We'll go watch Moana or whatever it is, and all those things. But just like we were when we were kids. What's that?
Moana? You mean Moana? Isn't that
scary?
You know,
my granddaughter corrects me all the time. That's exactly.
Isn't that scary that I know that?
Yeah, it is. That's true. No grandkids, and you know that. That's terrible.
Yeah,
I got to work on that. You know, because she corrects me all the time. It's crazy. But anyway, I do worry about that so much. This embedded in the screens and video games and people not leaving their couch. This really bothers me for the long term of how human interactions are going to be. As it is, we live our life so quickly and with such speed. Even though we have longer lives, we have shorter durations in our thinking about investing. In our thinking about life, relationships. What can you do for me now? Instead of these long-term, I've known you for so long, and you have these great long-term relationships that I'm afraid we're getting away from with the social media thing. So I love that humans come back. Maybe it's a bad experiment, and we're coming back to that. So I hope you're right, Kevin.
Dave Petso joining us, the Petso Center, Petso Financial. You know, it's interesting, host of Money Matters here from 8 to 10 on Saturdays. Last week, the NFL said that Jay-Z is going to be their director of something, social justice. Jay-Z, little criticism because he bragged openly that he sold the drugs and everything else and multi-billionaire. But he said something in the Wall Street Journal that I found fascinating when he talked about politics and business. He goes, look, I got to work with people that I may not politically agree with. But if I worked with everybody that just agreed with me, I wouldn't, be on television. I wouldn't have made the millions that I've made. It's interesting, the pragmatic approach that business people have as opposed to the, I don't know what you want to call it, approach that government has or political parties have when it comes to getting things done.
Yes. Or celebrities and all these other that are insulated from the rest of the world that don't have to get along with everybody. I also think that I hope that this is in there as well, is this whole thought that part of a great relationship is that you have with any human being is that you accept that you don't agree with them on everything and you still accept them.
Right.
And you stop having to feel like I have to change you, Kevin, because you need to get outside more and I'm just not going to stop. I accept you for who you are. And when we don't do that, our society has such terrible civil discourse these days because we don't accept that the other side is idiotic. We need to accept, to a degree, that they're idiots and let them go and be idiots. Yeah. But when we see this, and we certainly see this on the left more than we do on the right, that's really clear. But there are people on the right that don't accept that there's different opinions out there about things, and they need to change that too. But certainly with our mass media outrage about anything on the right, it's gotten out of hand. It's gotten to be a terrible discourse, and it does. When you get in my face about things, I put my heels in the ground, don't I? Right?
You do, and more coming up with Dave Petso next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Rolling on the right side, Dave Petso joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning. Don't forget the KIDO Talk Radio app for all things KIDO Talk Radio, whether it's Sean Hannity or Glenn Beck or Kevin Miller or Lars Larson, or even our friend Jordan's favorite person, George Norrie, overnight. You can get that for free on the Google Play Store, the App Store as well. Speaking of Apple, the FCC, or not the FCC, the people that are in charge, the FAA, thank you, Dave Petzo, said last week they're going to ban Apple laptops because of the laptops made from 2015 to 2017 that are catching fire because of the batteries, the bad batteries. Now, I purchased one of those, so I've got to go to the website and figure out if that's has the exploding battery or the battery that catches fire.
I hadn't heard about that. That's incredible. Yeah, I haven't heard about that at all.
Yeah, again, Apple, interesting. They're getting ready to launch their TV, their this, that, and the other, and still you got some issues involving the laptops. The MacBook Pro, very good. I mean, they're durable. They last forever. But this battery issue is number one. Number two, they finally redid the Big Mac. No, not the hamburger. That would be my Big Mac. But, I guess you call it the home computer. And the average retail price for the old one, still a very good computer. $2,000, $2,500 maybe for the 1 terabyte or 2 terabytes. This one, suppose is the best ever, and it's like $6,000, and it's in that professional thing, that category where you do it for a living, but prosumer. Thank you, prosumer, consumer model, but used by professionals.
Right.
And $6,000 for a home computer, even though it's Apple.
Imagine that. I know it's really amazing when we think about, but what they are capable of doing, and how much the cost has come down. Kevin, when I started in the 80s, we wasn't too long started using computers and the old dot metrics, which would go across and then stop, and then
MS-DOS.
We thought it was just the most amazing thing.
Sure.
And wait for the computer to think up simple equations, basically, to what it does now. And we used to have to buy one about in less than a year because it was always out of date. As soon as you bought it, you were 6 months out of date.
Yeah.
And it was $2,000. Yeah, back when $2,000 was big time. So it was really a very, very expensive upgrading thing. It certainly made Bill Gates rich. But at the same time, what I'm getting at here is that these computers can and do last forever. That's part of the problem that many of these companies have, is we just don't replace as often. I still have my iPhone 6. It works great, right?
You have the 6. I have the 6 Plus. We're both ghetto fabulous here.
That's right. And I hear the 4 is still around, right?
Right.
People are using it.
Although Apple is doing its best to get rid of that because they're stopped sending updates and everything else, trying to get us to get the new ones. And then, we talked about this earlier, 5G. The new phones will be able to take 5G. How life-ending is that going to be?
Yeah, I'm not a tech guy, so I'm going to speak out of turn on this and just say it's changing. It'll change everything because the connectivity to your home, to your car, to your work, and everything will be so mobile, so fast, and so transparent. It'll be phenomenal. It really will. We'll have wearable clothes that check our skin temperatures and things like that. If you have diabetes, they'll know if you're having a problem. If you have a heart condition, it'll let us know you're in distress.
You've been talking about that all the time. You talk about that with a watch.
Does that. The iWatch does that.
Yeah, you were talking about that with the watch. You're just recycling old material. We never do that here.
It comes along. I've been told now I really need to get the watch because it's really fantastic. So we'll see. We'll see about that.
All right. Traffic and weather together. KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave. Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it. Dave Petzo with us. KIDO Talk Radio. So it's the end of summer. We've got about 4 minutes left in this segment. What do you make of, summer doldrums are over, more turbulence in the market, China, North Korea? How does that impact people's money?
There's not as many people. They're off to the beach, although I'll bet they're packing their bags with what's going on in China and heading back in, or certainly trading from the beach. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of turmoil out there. The markets are really stressed right now because of what's going on in Hong Kong. The tariff deal, as you know, the market spiked as soon as they said, we'll just put that off for a few months. And that's a good move. It puts Trump in a conciliatory. We're going to just wait a minute before we push further. And you know what's happening with China? They are having more and more and more slowdowns in their overall economy. So this is very smart by the president. Just put it off. We're good, and we'll keep talking. Even if they're not talking, we're going to pretend we're talking. but it puts a lot more pressure on China and to come back to the table and really have something that instead of nodding and shaking and going, that we can actually say, no, you're not following the rules. We want to have it enforceable, an enforceable decision, because China always cheats. Always. 100% of the time, they always cheat. And so if you have a society that just cheats at everything, and I'm not just trying to throw everybody in the same bucket. I hate it when people do that, like all people of this persuasion are like that. That's not true. But in China, it's cultural.
All the libs are bad.
Correct, right. I try not to do that because not all of them are. There's one or two. But my point is with China, this is cultural. This is a problem, and we have to be able to enforce it.
Finally, a couple questions more for Dave Pezzo. If you had to guess, which company in Idaho, this is really not fair, has is the highest paying median wage?
The highest paid median wage?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would have guessed Micron, but I'm pretty sure you're going to tell me it's one of these new tech startups. I'll give it to you. I don't know. IdaCorp. Really?
Energy and mining.
Really?
Their median salary, take a guess.
60.
Highest median salary in the state. Highest paying median salary.
Is higher than 60. For IdaCorp? The power company?
You say IdaCorp, I say IdaCorp. This is energy and mining. IdaCorp.
I was thinking of the power company.
That would be Idaho Power, right?
It's IdaCorp.
This is IdaCorp, but
Okay.
IdaCorp, I
Okay.
don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you pronounce the P, maybe you don't.
I don't think you do with the power company, but anyway. Okay.
IdaCorp, median salary, energy and mining.
100. I don't know. I'm completely swinging in the dark.
$133,066.
Wow. How many employees?
I just asked the question. I don't know.
I don't even know who they are.
I just found that somewhere, and anytime I can stump Dave Pezzo, it's a good day. Dave Pezzo, we appreciate having you here on this extended version.
It is always a pleasure, Kevin. Enjoy it every time.
More coming up next. Keep it right here, and don't forget to check us out. Take a look, see if you like it, maybe download it, the KIDO Talk Radio app. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.